You may not have thought about it before, but shoes are very important. Shoes obviously protect your feet from standing on things which may hurt you, but a lack of a properly fitting pair of shoes can lead to long-term foot, knee, and back injuries. Shoes are also important due to how they make you feel about yourself. An aspiring footballer may buy a pair of boots which are worn by their idol in the hope it will help them run faster or shoot straighter, while a dancer's first point shoes may symbolize an effort to explore more deeply the art of expression through ballet. Shoes also give us the opportunity to demonstrate our personality. Indeed, it's possible to tell a lot about someone from their shoes. So, if we were doing this assembly face to face, this is the point where I would be asking you to give me your suggestions as to what these shoes may suggest about their wearers. Obviously, we can't do that, so you will have to settle for my thoughts. For me, these are the shoes of a professional. They are clearly new shoes due to the lack of creases in the leather, and they really have been well polished. Perhaps this is someone who takes pride in their appearance and wants to look smart. Perhaps it is someone who is on their way to a job interview or the first day of a new job. Okay, so I want to say with these shoes they probably belong to a woman, although I don't suppose we can be completely sure. They are clearly from someone who takes care of their feet. Perhaps this suggests they take care of themselves more generally. And I would say that they want to try and make their feet look pretty. Perhaps this gives them a boost to their self-confidence and makes them feel good about themselves. Okay, right, so something completely different here and fairly straightforward. Someone who likes sport, someone outdoorsy, probably someone who is quite physically fit. I would bet that even if these shoes were cleaned up, they would still look battered and well loved. Perhaps this suggests someone who is determined or someone who is able to stay committed to a goal. Now for me, these are the shoes of someone who is flamboyant. There's no way when you see this person, your eyes won't be drawn to their feet. Perhaps this is someone with a lot of personality who is using their shoes as another means through which to express themselves. Okay, well, this should be fairly self-explanatory. So what about this shoe? It is clearly very old, so whoever this shoe belonged to, they lived some time ago. From the size of it, we can be fairly sure that it belonged to a small child. We can't be sure of the gender of the owner of this shoe, but we could perhaps suggest it's likely that this is a little boy's shoe. The colour of the leather is faded, and the shoe is very worn and crumpled. It looks aged. It is quite old-fashioned in style. It doesn't have the appearance that children's shoes have today. It's fastened with laces, not with Velcro. Its style just looks like a miniature adult shoe. From this angle, you can see that small nails or tacks have been used to pin the sole to the upper part of the shoe, but also that the heel of the shoe has come away. The tacks look rusted, again confirming that this is an old shoe. We can see here that the shoe has been repaired. There's green stitching at the back where the shoe was worn and ripped. Does this show that the owner did not live in a throwaway society, or that the parents of the child were poor and could not afford to buy a new shoe when this one broke? Is this a shoe that was passed down from sibling to sibling within a family, hence why it was so worn? Or might it simply be that the boy loved this shoe so much that he didn't want to throw it away when it broke? The stitching is uneven and the wrong colour for the shoe. It clearly wasn't done by a professional. Was it done by a mother or father who took the time and effort to repair this shoe for their son? The fact of the matter is, we shall never know. We shall never know the answer to these questions and to many more because the owner of the shoe is not alive to tell us. The only thing that we know for certain about this shoe is that it was found here, in Auschwitz-Birkenau. the most infamous death camp of the Holocaust. Knowing this fact means that we can move on to make other assumptions. Firstly, the owner of this shoe must have been from one of the countries occupied by the Nazis during the Second World War, possibly Hungary, as Auschwitz was the place where most of those people from Hungary who were murdered by the Nazis were sent. Secondly, he was probably a Jew. Most likely, he would have arrived at Auschwitz on board a train, but not a train like you and I know, a cattle car like the one in this picture. Upon arrival at Auschwitz, he would have been put into one of two queues. One queue for those who were healthy and strong enough to be put to work, and a second queue for everyone else. It is almost certain that, as such a young boy, he would have been put in the second queue of everyone else. Once sorted, the second queue would have been sent off to the gas chambers, where he would have been murdered. It is almost certain that the owner of the shoe was one of the 1.1 million men, women and children who died at Auschwitz. It is also almost certain that the owner of the shoe was one of the 11 million men, women and children who were murdered during the Holocaust. The 27th of January is Holocaust Memorial Day. It is the international day to remember the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, alongside the millions of other people killed under Nazi persecution. It is the day where we also remember those who have died or had their lives torn apart by the genocides which followed the Holocaust in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. It is the day when we remember the little boy who owned that shoe. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day in 2021 is Be the Light in the Darkness. It is designed to encourage everyone to reflect on the depths humanity can sink to, but also the ways individuals and communities can resist that darkness and be a beacon of hope to help others. This map shows the number of Jews that lived in countries in Europe before they were invaded by the Nazis. This map shows what happened to those populations by the time the war had come to an end. However, the eagle-eyed of you will have noticed that the Jewish population of Denmark barely moved between the first map and second. Indeed, 90% of Denmark's Jewish population survived the Second World War, despite the fact that the Nazis invaded and occupied Denmark. How did this happen? This photograph shows the Johansson family having Christmas dinner with a Swedish family in Landskrona, Sweden. The Johansson family were one of many Danish Jewish families who managed to escape Denmark in 1943, following the Nazi invasion of 1940. When the Danish resistance movement learned that Denmark's 7,800 Jews were going to be deported by the Nazis, they quickly informed their Jewish friends and neighbours, and a large-scale operation was organised to help them escape by water to nearby Sweden. Families like the Johanssons moved to hiding places across the country and then onto the coast. They were supported by resistance workers and many individual Danish citizens alongside the Danish police and government. When they reached the coast, fishermen then used their fishing boats, rowing boats, and even canoes to ferry them across to Sweden. Over a period of about a month, some 7,200 Jews and 700 of their non-Jewish relatives travelled to safety. Indeed, the story of the Holocaust is full of stories of individuals risking their own lives to do the right thing, to be the light in the darkness. Sometimes these stories come from places you would least expect. This is an image of Lime Bala. Lime and her husband Destan were one of many Muslim Albanian families who provided shelter to Jewish refugees escaping Nazi persecution. Before the war, Albania was a mostly Muslim country with a small population of around 200 Jewish people. As the Nazis took control of countries across Europe, they were joined by Jewish people from countries like Germany, Austria, Greece, and Yugoslavia, looking for refuge or a passage to Palestine. When Germany invaded Albania in 1943, Albania's population, from government officials to local villagers, refused to hand over their Jewish neighbours. Instead, the authorities provided fake documentation to Jewish families, helping them to go undetected in their communities. 17 people came from the capital of Albania, Tirana, to Lime's small village to escape the Nazis. Her village took in the refugees, finding them homes and places to live. Lima and her husband took in 3 brothers. She said, "We were poor. We didn't even have a dining table, but we never allowed them to pay for the food or shelter." Astonishingly, by the end of the war, there were more Jews in Albania than there had been before the war started. Almost all Albanian Jews and Jewish refugees who came to Albania were saved. You may of course be now thinking, "But sir, how is this message relevant to me right now? I can't exactly do anything to help rescue people who are in need." Can't you? You may not be able to organise a nationwide relief effort or shelter someone in your home, but is there really nothing you can do to help those who are struggling? To me, the message of "be the light in the darkness" just means being kind to other people and looking out for other people when they are struggling. The world is going through its own very different dark times at the moment. 2020 was a difficult year in so many different ways, and 2021 hasn't exactly got off to the best start. Is there anything you can do to be the light in the darkness for someone who is finding things difficult at the moment? Perhaps there is. Perhaps it's just a small thing. Perhaps all that we need to do is to be kind to one another, to think of one another, and to try and help one another. On this Holocaust Memorial Day, remember those who died as a result of the worst humans can do to each other, but maybe try and also show the opposite, the best that humans can be, kind and caring to each other.